My good friends over at the subreddit Jazz, how do you possibly have that hypothetical trade and get it that wrong? Let's discuss next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Today, going into the subreddit Jazz, Utah Jazz, one of the best out there. I'm wondering, how did you possibly get that hypothetical trade wrong? We'll discuss that. Then, what gets you played off the court faster? I was watching two NBA draft prospects last night, Rob Dillingham and Holland, and it made me think to myself, what gets you played off the court more? And ESPN just came out with their player comps for the top 10 draft picks in the draft, and we're going to look at those together and see what we think on those. I've got some other stuff, including we have the NBA preview floating around, but we have another 2 days until the NBA preview. So we'll see whether or not we get to that. As I mentioned, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, so please subscribe. We're also on YouTube, so please subscribe and follow. It's free, and on YouTube, hit that bell button. Thumbs up are greatly appreciated. Want to try to hit 100 thumbs up, and we'll get those today. I'm convinced of it. All right. On Reddit, by the way, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, making every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $150 with any $5 bet. FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Okay. So I like Reddit. I'm on it. I think it's fun. Somebody asked the question, would you trade the 10th pick of the NBA draft for Cameron Johnson? So just to give a little insight, Cameron Johnson is a 6'8", 210-pound forward who plays for the Brooklyn Nets. Cam Johnson was originally the 11th pick of the draft by the Phoenix Suns, and after playing in Phoenix for 4 years, he then has played in Brooklyn for 2 years. Cam Johnson, for his career, averages 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He shoots 45% for the field and 39% from 3. And he's been this player for a little while that seemingly is on the verge of exploding and hasn't. Okay? So, like, he is definitely flattened out. Like, he went kind of his opening years. He was a 22-minute game. Then he went to 30, and then he gets traded. So he's finished his 5th season, and he gets traded. And then last year, he didn't quite do what everyone wanted, I think. But he shot 39% from 3. Okay. Let me just start here for a second. In this NBA draft that we're looking at on a daily basis, if there is anything that's consistent, it's like the pieces aren't there on each player. There's going to be plenty of good players, some of which, like, I really like. But the fact is that when you look at a player like Ron Holland out of the G League, his body is incredible. He can't shoot. Stephen Castle, his body is incredible. He can't really shoot. And so when you start to kind of look at each of these guys in this draft, you look at Rob Dillingham. I watched Rob Dillingham and Ron Holland last night, and those are the 2 guys we'll talk about. Dillingham's an incredible shot maker. He's 170 pounds soaking wet. Like, the comp everybody wants to give him is Darius Garland. Darius Garland weighs 20 pounds more than he does. Like, then people want to go to Allen Iverson. Okay, he's one of, like, the most unique players in the history of the game. So on almost every single one, like, Zulius, as I've honestly said, like I don't see it. I'll be curious to see if he becomes an NBA player, and then I'll learn what I didn't understand. Dalton Connect's interesting, but he's also 23. So when I look at Cameron Johnson, who is 28 years old, because he was old, he was a surprise pick by Phoenix. He spent 4 years in college at Pitt and then at UNC. He actually spent 5. And you have the 10th pick of the draft for Cameron Johnson. I think it's a no-brainer. If I had a chance to trade our 10th pick for an established, right-sized player who's 6'8" and can shoot, I'm in. Now, why? What would be the reason why you wouldn't do it? I believe, if I have my notes right, Cameron Johnson is starting a new contract in which he gets paid $23 million this year, a weird 21 the next year, 23 the year after. All the more reason. That's nothing anymore. Cameron Johnson is a legit starter in the NBA on a good team because he can shoot. If not, a sixth man of the NBA. And he makes $20 million, which honestly, I think what we're going to have for right now, and then it's going to skyrocket, is $50 million is a star, $30 million is a starter, $20 million, 15 to $20 million is a bench player, and $10 million is Joe Ingles coming off the bench playing as your 9th guy. That's where we are. So Reddit asks, would you trade the 10th pick for Cam Johnson? And 67% of the people voted no. What? These are like the smartest Jazz fans who like pay attention, care, are part of a subreddit, one of the bigger NBA subreddit. What? No? Oh gosh, if we pull that trade, I would be jumping up and down thinking it's totally brilliant. Totally brilliant. I'm not sure Cam Johnson is a good NBA starter. I'm not sure who I look at in this NBA draft and am certain they're a good NBA starter. Reed Sheppard, I think, is. I like Reed Sheppard a lot. I've said that a lot. Donovan Clingan will probably, with his size, be a good NBA starter. Dillingham, 170 pounds? Whew. Topic? Maybe. He's got 6'6", 7'1" reach. I was kind of in on him yesterday. Need to watch him more? Probably. Bazulius? Not sure. Castle? Not if he can't shoot. Dalton Connect? NBA starter? Cody Williams? Probably. Those metrics, that body, that length? Probably. But probably very similar to Cam Johnson. So I would rather, let's say our choice is Cody Williams at 19 or Cam Johnson at 28. I'm taking Cameron Johnson at 28. I'll take his $20 million salary. It's a tradable asset when someone needs it. He's a PJ Washington type who could probably push someone over the edge at a trade deadline to get someone into the NBA Finals if he's not working out for us. I think that's like a no-brainer. Thumbs up me on YouTube if you think if you would make a Cam Johnson for the 10th pick of the draft trade. And if you wouldn't, I'm super curious and want to hear more of why you wouldn't do it. Because honestly, to me, how often have I taken a topic off of a Reddit or a Twitter to discuss? Very rarely, but I just thought this was crazy. The first comment was not in a poor draft. They're bound to be surprises. Guys end up being better than expected. I'd rather take a swing than pay Johnson $20+ million. $20+ million isn't a lot. The 2024 NBA salary cap, that is not a lot of money. It's $141 million is your salary cap. And you're going to go over the cap. The luxury tax is $172 million. $20 million is not a lot. Honestly, like your 141 is probably your 8 or 9 main guys. That's an average of 15 million a year. Cam Johnson's going to be Cam Johnson would be our second best player, wouldn't he? So curious to know what you think. That's the 180 person sample size of Reddit. We'll see. Now, obviously, the piece of this puzzle that we're not discussing in any way, shape, or form is how do you get Cam Johnson? And why would Brooklyn do it? So, you have to get into a whole different game here of like, well, what are we giving up in the process? And then if it's Colin Sexton or someone like that, I think you're starting to say, well, wait a sec, I'm not that interested in doing that. If the Jazz are just trading this year's draft pick, they probably have to put some salary in it because I believe while the Jazz can take money back, I don't know Brooklyn's situation. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that's possible. But I think, I think that is something that the Jazz could probably, I don't know if they could. I don't know why Brooklyn would do it. Brooklyn doesn't own their picks, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it was a really fun. Thank you to the people at Reddit who posted it, because I think it's a fun conversation to try to get people to understand, like, well, what would you do and what wouldn't you do? Give me your thoughts. All right, what gets you played off the court faster? That was my self-debate last night. I'm going to share it with you next as we continue on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. I had a friend come over last night, actually former GM and president of the Seattle Storm, and laughed at our driveway. It just literally looks like a Hyundai car lot right now. We've got both I'm driving the Tucson. My daughter's Santa Fe is here. The Ioniq is here. And actually my son's car is still in Massachusetts. So we actually could have 4 Hyundais in the driveway right now and make our house completely look a Hyundai dealership. Why? Because when I researched what I wanted for a car, Hyundai hit all the bells and whistles, hit everything I wanted, then got me the most bells and whistles for the dollar and the best safety features. And I like the way they look. Car buying is personal. You decide what it looks like. But if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, hit all the safety features and be above on the bells and whistles, then Hyundai is the answer. And the Murdochs are the answer to do it with it. 4646 South State Street in Logan or in Linden. Please stop by. If you're going to, though, email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. Let's make sure we get you the VIP experience that you deserve as a Locked On every dayer. It's Murdoch Hyundai, located in Murray, also in Logan and in Linden. Want to help you out and get you in a new set of wheels at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Are you going to get into all the action in the NBA Finals and make it even more fun? Or the Stanley Cup Finals? You can do it. Bring home a big win of your own during the championship matches. Get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. FanDuel/Locked On to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is the #1 sportsbook in America, and FanDuel is the official sportsbook of Locked On. NBA Finals. Boston is a 6-point favorite in game 1. Boston is -220. Dallas is +184. MVP Tatum -125. Doncic +200. Brown +700. Kyrie +2,000. Derek White +3,200 and Drew Holiday +6,500. Finals voters try to get complicated sometimes. Stanley Cup, by the way, Florida is favored over Edmonton in game 1 of that series. And for the entires, and Connor McDavid is the favorite to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, the best player in hockey. That's all at FanDuel.com/Locked On. Thanks very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Have you made the switch? The switch to the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 feed, available on Amazon Fire or on YouTube. If you've not checked it out yet, please do. Super proud of what we're building, and we're going to make it even better for you. We're going to launch. Oh, I'll tell you. You guys got the first to know everything. We're going to launch a show called The Big Six on our Amazon in Locked On Sports. It'll be the 6 biggest stories of the day in sports with about 8 to 9 minutes of our local hosts on each one of the stories. Rather than right now, you get the full 30-minute podcast, and then we'll go to our national shows from there. Then we'll go to Locked On NBA, Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Scouting, Locked On MLB, and all those. But we'll give you the Big Six will be the 6 main biggest stories of the day, which will be kind of awesome for you. So we're excited for that. We're actually going to launch it as a podcast as well. So that's all coming up. There, you guys know something nobody else does. We haven't even been officially announced that. But you're Jazz, Locked On Jazz listeners. You've helped build this whole thing. You get all the inside scoop. All right, so I'm watching last night, and I'm watching Rob Dillingham, who I mentioned. Rob Dillingham is this guard out of Kentucky, top 10 pick, incredible shot maker, and dances with the ball, and creative, and quick, and bursty, and little, and 6'1", 170 right now. 170. Darius Garland is like the smallest guy in the league, and he's like 192. Like 6'1" guards that are like good. Like TJ McConnell is 185. Bench player, really small, unique, plays crazy hard. Okay. So, but Dillingham offensively is really terrific. Defensively is a pretty bad. Like, I don't want to like just bury a kid. You never know. But what I saw was a little tough. Okay. Defensively, like really tough. Ron Holland, who is coming out in this draft out of the G League, is the most gorgeous physical specimen, I think, in the draft. Like, of all the players in the draft, maybe Alex Sarr. He's 6'8", and his body's kind of perfect. Like, he's 6'8", 195 because he's 18. He's going to be, the one listing has him at 205. He's going to be 215, 220 if he wants to be. Not hard for him to do. Perfect. There are a million of them. And he shot 24% from 3 last year in the G League. Okay. He was the number 2 player in his high school class. I'm not going to lie to you. If he's at 10 and I'm the Jazz, I have a hard time passing on him. Right? Like, I'd have to go back and really look at his 2023 Hoop Summit and his 2023 McDonald's All-American, and probably go back and look at his Duncanville high school stuff when they were the best team in Dallas. Like, the G League was such a mess last year that I have a hard time really looking at someone's G League numbers and deciding that I'm going to like judge that. And his body is awesome. I mean, awesome. But right now he can't shoot. So this leads to a question I had. What gets you played off the court faster in the NBA? Not being able to defend or not being able to shoot? So this is because of Rob Dillingham, because of Ron Holland. That's why this discussion happened last night. Because I'm watching one guy and thinking to myself, wow, that is awesome, but he's 170 pounds. He can't play. Defensively, he just can't play. And then I'm watching this other guy, and I'm like, oh my God, his body's amazing. He can't shoot. If you can't shoot, you can't play. So which is it? Feel free to hit me on X at DLock09 or comment in the comment section. Which do you think gets you played off the court faster in the NBA? So my answer is I'm pretty certain it's not being able to shoot. If you're as good a shooter as Rob Dillingham is, you'll make it on the court. And then there'll be matchups. There'll be matchups that get kind of dicey, right? But I think you'll know when you can't keep him on the court anymore. So I don't think Rob Dillingham can be a 30-minute-a-night player at 170 pounds. And from a draft standpoint, Ron Holland, if he learns how to shoot, is not only a 35-minute-a-night player, he's great. Like, if he puts the skills together, he's great because his body's amazing. And then you have Paul George. I mean, that's if he really can shoot. And right now, there's no signs of that. So the upside, no question, on these two guys. But if Ron Holland can never shoot, then he's Isaac Okoro, who had the greatest body. I saw it. Like, Isaac Okoro blew up more screens out of Auburn, it was absolutely terrific. 6'5", 220, just amazing. And, his minutes are down at like 24 minutes a night. They started at 32 as a rookie, and they kept trying. And then they had to sign George Niang and Max Strus because he couldn't play, because he couldn't shoot. Right? I mean, that's the truth is, he in the 5-game series against Boston, I think even with all the injuries, he played 20%. But in 3 years of playoffs now, Isaac Okoro is shooting 27% from the playoffs in 3, and he's shooting 38% from the field. Like, he can't shoot. And I'll bet if we go back and look at Isaac Okoro's college numbers, they don't parlay. I had a thought there I'm going to keep to myself. It's somewhat surprising to me. We do have this data that kind of shows us what pans out as shooters and what doesn't pan out as shooters. And we want to fight and what pans out as good NBA players and what pans out as not good NBA players. And we want to fight it so badly. And I really can't figure out why. I mean, I get it. It's much more of an allure to say, like, or it's the fear of missing out, right? If I was a pro scout right now, I'm terrified of missing on Ron Holland. I'm not terrified of missing on Rob Dillingham. I kind of know what he's going to be. By the way, I just pulled up Isaac Okoro. This was not what I planned to do today, but Isaac Okoro is a 6'5", 225 guard who plays for Cleveland. He was the 5th pick of the 2020 draft. His defense in college was so awesome. And he couldn't, and if I go back to his just pure shooting numbers at Auburn in his rookie year, let me see if I can find them. He shot 51% from the field and 29% from 3. And so let's look at the numbers that we talk about with shot types. So on spot up shooting, he was in the 41st percentile. No, he's in the 55th percentile, which is not terrible. That would have led you to believe that was 72 shots that maybe he had a chance. On catch and shoot, though, he was in the 17th percentile. And on off the bounce shooting, he was in the 47th percentile, but he only took 12 of them. And he was great at the rim. So we go back to the numbers we've had this year, and we have a bunch of guys that are well below that. And here's another sample size of a guy who's done this. Doesn't pan out. We might be onto something here. So anyway, what gets you played off the court faster? Interesting discussion. All right, ESPN did player comps on the top 10 picks of the draft. We're going to run through them together and discuss whether we think these are really accurate or whether we're getting too excited about some of these players and what it means. That's next as we continue on Locked on Jazz. This next episode of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by BetterHelp. Convenient, flexible, online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com. As I've mentioned to you before, when I think about therapy, I think of therapy as performance enhancing. We go to the gym to get stronger. We run to get in better shape. We bike to get our health, our cardio better. We read to get smarter. Therapy can do all the same things for us, for our brain, making us a little bit better. We all carry around our various different stressors or issues that make us react how we do, big or small. We keep them bottled up. They affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe place to get them off your chest and for you to performance enhance, to figure out how to work through whatever it is that's weighing you down. If there's a cycle of things that happens to you, you always end up in the same position. How do you deal with that? So therefore, this is a chance for you to try BetterHelp. What are the difficulties of therapy? Finding a therapist? Well, BetterHelp does it entirely online, convenient, flexible, suited. And if you happen to choose the wrong therapist, you're kind of stuck right now because it's so hard to get a therapist. Well, BetterHelp will give you a brief questionnaire, get you matched with a licensed therapist, and You switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So go to betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Right now, if you were on Locked On Sports Today, you'd be watching two of the best football minds out there, Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson on the Peacock and Williamson show. Killing it on Amazon Fire TV. All right, let's do this. This is fun. ESPN. So they took the number one pick of the draft right now, seems to be Zachary Rashir, or it's not Rashia, and they think he's possibly Chris Middleton. Okay? With a low end being Trey Murphy III. I'm not sure. I don't think Trey Murphy III is going to be better than Chris Middleton. That means they think he's a borderline possible all-star. He's 6'8", long, moves well, seems to understand the game. He's still little, but he's young. Okay, Alex Sarr, high-end Jaren Jackson Jr., low-end Nick Claxton. That's pretty good. That's an NBA starter. That's pretty good. Donovan Clingan, they think is Rudy Gobert or late career Brook Lopez. Low end, they think he's Walker Kessler. So that's interesting. Like, some question of whether the Jazz, since he's 7'3" with a 7'7" wingspan, should try to go up and get this kid. I've heard that being talked about a little bit. Like, if his low end is Walker, we already have Walker. And Walker's high end is still there. This kid's just bigger. Okay? Reed Shepard. High end Steve Nash. Low end Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, I'm going to be surprised if he's Peyton Pritchard. I really like him. The strength in his outlet passes, the pass to one guy removed, the shooting numbers, I got he's small. That's my one concern. But I was talking to somebody who I respect really, really well about the NBA draft, and his comment was literally like, go get Reed Shepard and get out of the draft. I was like, yeah, 100%. Mateus Bazulius, high-end Chandler Parsons, low-end Kyle Anderson. I hate the low end there. And the reason I hate the low end is there's only one Kyle Anderson. Like, if his low end is Kyle Anderson, he's out of the league. Honestly, this is the kid who I just didn't see it a great deal. Like, maybe we'll figure it out, and maybe he'll be like a Corey Kispert or somebody like that. When I watched the mock, when I watched him, he's 6'10", 200 pounds, so it's pretty great body. But this is like to the first segment of the show today where, like, you can go get Cam Johnson, go get Cam Johnson. Because Cam Johnson's body is right and he can shoot. Like, I don't see the guys who have the body right and can shoot. Stephen Castle, they have high-end Andre Iguodala. I called Andre Iguodala's college games. He was Michael Jordan at Arizona. We have forgotten what Andre Iguodala was. I'm not going to say there's zero because these kids are all great competitors and they develop, and limiting somebody at 19 years old is really just an a-hole move. But like, I did Andre Iguodala's college games. Andre Iguodala averaged 20 points a game in his fourth year in the league. Like, wow. Like, yeah, I don't. Stephen Castle's got a nice body, does exciting things. I don't see their low end is Justice Winslow. I think that's Justice Winslow. I just didn't think ever understood how to play the game. I think Stephen Castle knows how to play the game, but he can't shoot as of right now. I think Stephen Castle could be Isaac Okoro. Rob Dillingham, high end Darius Garland, low end Bones Highland. Like, they want to say he's Darius Garland or Trae Young. But I think even Trae Young's 190 pounds. Nope, Trae Young's only 165 pounds. So maybe that is the comp. But boy, Trae Young is special. Trae Young feels like he's small and he gets exposed and he's so great he can overcome it. But that's low end is Bone Highlands. It's not great for a seventh pick of the draft. Dalton Connect. High end Bojan Bogdanovic, low end Max Strus. I kind of like this. There's just not a lot of variance right there on Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect feels like the easiest pick of this draft. I think Doug McDermott should probably be in there. I do wish that Dalton Connect was 2 inches taller. Dalton Knecht is 6'6". Again, this is kind of this draft. Bojan is a big 6'7" and tough as hell. I thought he always played bigger than 6'7". And Max Strus is only 6'5". So I think Max Strus is a pretty good comp. Yeah, Dalton Knecht should end up in Miami, frankly. Nikola Topic, who we talked about yesterday. High-end Josh Giddey, low-end Thomas Satoransky. It's interesting. I really thought he looked like Goran Dragic, which would be higher end than both those guys. Saloon, the French kid. We'll talk about him some tomorrow. I watched him a bunch. Jeremy Grant and Kyle Kuzma is his high end. I can kind of see that. He's 6'8". He moves pretty well. He sees it. Maurice Harkless is his low end. Okay. Ron Holland. High-end RJ Barrett, low-end Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson, pure busted, and was that's an interesting. Josh Jackson was a major personality problem, so that's an interesting one to put into that. Cody Williams and RJ Barrett has only been okay. I'll say this again. Holland's body just reminds me of Harrison Barnes. Cody Williams, high-end Otto Porter, low-end Troy Brown Jr. It's getting slim here. Devin Carter, who I like a lot. High-end Marcus Smart, low-end DeAnthony Melton. Well, I like Devin Carter because I think he can shoot. Marcus Smart can't shoot, so I don't like that. But a big, powerful guard. I honestly thought Devin Carter looked like a poor man's Jalen Brunson just because I don't think he'll develop the way Jalen Brunson did. But I don't really know who a poor man's Jalen Brunson is. Jacoby Walter, Contavious Caldwell Pope, or Gary Trent Jr. It's interesting. Well done by ESPN. Who did that? Jeremy Wu? Jeremy's really good. I'm going to have to get Jeremy on the show. Really good stuff. All right, this is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast in Utah Jazz. Thanks so much for sticking with us for the entire show today. That was fun. Love getting your comments. I'll check them all out as I'm recording it now. I'll go back throughout the day and check out your comments and comment on YouTube or on Reddit. Feel free to have a discussion about the Cody Johnson for the 10th pick, Cameron Johnson for the 10th pick of the draft. Cody Johnson's a doctor in Dallas who's like the foot guru of the world, who kept Dirk Nowitzki healthy and actually fixed my son's feet at one point in time. So there was a random drop. It is Locked On Jazz. Thanks so much. We send you now to the first ever 24/7 national sports channel, Locked On Sports Today, if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you're on audio, then why don't you check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or Amazon Fire.